This is the MGTOW Infinium here with another Infinium Free Talk. This Infinium Free Talk is entitled A Divorce Rate Tale. Now, my MGTOW brothers, I have previously referenced a incident which happened with a friend of mine where he got divorce raped in the mid-80s. This Infinium Free Talk is going to do a little bit more detail as to what happened in that incident. Now, to give a little bit of backstory as to how I got to know my friend, his family and mine were very tight back then because his family lived across the street from my grandmother on my mother's side. And so every time we went from New York City to North Carolina to see my grandmother, I always wound it up with my friend, and we would run around town in North Carolina, just to, do what we need to do, or, play or do whatever, or hang out, whatever. And back then, at the time, I was doing a lot of photography. I was, in fact, doing a lot of professional photography. I was doing anything from weddings to journalistic types of things, all types of things, photography-wise. And of course, I was into my electronics, computers, and whatnot. And at the time, he was doing work for a defense contractor. I can't remember if it was Grumman or Martin Marietta, but he was working for a defense contractor. And he was building nuclear missiles. And it was at the time of the Reagan defense initiatives, the Star Wars things that they were doing. And so he was making a lot of money. For instance, when GM changed the body styles of the Camaro and the Firebird cars, he was able to buy a Camaro flat out, no financing, cash, and pay for it fully. No financing again. So again, he was making a lot of money. He was making money, buku dollars, at a time when most young men were not. But again, that's neither here nor there. Now, one day out of the blue, he called me, and he tells me that he's going to get married, that he found the love of his life. He found a woman that is his soulmate. And we spent a long time on the phone just discussing this woman and how wonderful she was, how he was so thrilled to be marrying a woman like her, and blah, blah, blah. And he wound up in the phone call asking me to come down to Florida, where he was living at the time, Orlando, Florida, where he was living at the time, to do his wedding. I, of course, agreed to it because, again, I was his one of his close friends, and I just basically said, yeah, I will do it. And he said, I'll pay you, do whatever I need to do, but please, can you do my wedding? Because I know you do good work. So again, I wound up being the wedding photographer for his wedding. So, given again, because his family was close to mine, we went down, and my family went down to Florida to see his wedding go off, and I, of course, went down to do his photography for his wedding. So I get down to Florida. I meet his fiance, and I tell you, my brothers, it was quite a shock. Because, to back up a moment, his family would be considered a Black conservative family, or like Democratic conservative family. So, and again, they were come to find out very well off. they own property and all types of things. So all one. Well, I think one parent was a teacher, and another one was working in the medical industry. And then again, they owned property across the street from where they were living, and owned a whole bunch of things. And of course, because of their conservative nature, you never knew about it. You just saw what they were, and they seemed like just very humble, conservative people who just wanted to do right in life. Now, when I met my friend's fiance, I was totally shocked because she was nothing like what he had said she was on the phone. She was what we would now call in these days a 304. And she was a high-end 304, so to speak. And back then we would call them, back in the day we would call them hoochie mamas, but nowadays, again, she would be called a 304. On top of that, her mother was a 304. Again, high-end 304. On top of that, her family, the fiance's family, would be considered left-wing grifters. So that's what I encountered when I went down there. So I was totally shocked. I just couldn't believe what the dichotomy was, how big the dichotomy was between what my friend told me how this woman was versus what I had saw. And it's not funny, but that's how shocked I was. But I said, well, I'll just keep my feelings to myself and just go along with what he's saying, because I consider him a pretty smart guy, and that he would not fall into something that we now see in our time frame, that many men are falling into, the types of traps and types of entrapments that we content producers, we Red Pill and MGTOW content producers, try to warn men to beware of. But nevertheless, so we're down there, and as days go along, I see more and more that my friend was falling into a trap. But again, I kind of held my peace. And just went along with what he, wanted and everything, and just left it at that, because the main thing, I just wanted him to be happy. So I just kept my peace and just went along with the program, so to speak. It comes to the night of the wedding rehearsal. And I'll back up again. Not only was this woman a 304, she was a bridezilla. She was cray-cray. She was everything. She was a nightmare from hell. That's what I can say of her. But again, this is what my friend wanted, and I was put in a position where, should I hold my peace, or should I just tell him that, hey, you're making a big mistake? But continuing on, it gets to the night of the wedding rehearsal, and a big argument ensues, and the bridezilla flips out, and with her peeps, takes off, leaves the church, runs out of the church. My friend, who was shocked and embarrassed at what happened, goes out to the side of the church and sits on the stoop of the church on the outside of the church. I saw what was going on, and I became kind of incensed and said, well, I'm going to tell my friend what I feel, and if he decides to disown me and get rid of me, so be it. But I'm going to tell him of what is going on, and that he is in real danger. So I go out and find him, and we begin to talk, and he confesses to me that this woman that he's about to marry is cray cray. She's out there. He tells me this story that everything he does sets her off. She starts screaming and yelling and running around, and she just does things. She's wild and this and that, and I'm like, dude, you told me that, and it's not funny. But it's like, dude, you told me that she is the love of your life. She told me that she's your soulmate, and that she's a wonderful woman, and now it's this, and this is who you're gonna marry, and he's going on. I just can't believe the way she's acting, and this and that, and I got to a point. I said, man, and I told him exactly this. You really need to call this thing off, because you are going to wind up being sorry for this. And he's going on and going on. Well, I can't, because my family's down here, and we pay for all of this. And come to find out, his family had paid for footed the whole bill for his wedding. So instead of her family kind of putting in and sharing the cost of the wedding, his family put in for the cost of this elaborate wedding, and went into debt because of it. But that's in hindsight. But he's saying all this had happened, and they did this, and they did this and did that, and I just don't know what I'll do, and if I cut it off. And I told him directly, it's better to be embarrassed than to be divorced. And he says, well, yeah, I understand, but I got to go through with it. And I told him again, twice again, it's better to be embarrassed than to be divorced. And he did not believe me. And he says, well, I got to go through with the wedding. And he goes through with it. And I did the wedding photography. I did all of that, and just heard from them occasionally within a couple of months. But about 9 months into his marriage, I hear that he's getting divorced. And not only is he getting divorced, he's getting divorce rate. And he's getting divorce rate to the extent that all she left him with, or all the court left him with, was a washer and a dryer. So they got the car, they got the house, everything that my friend had, this woman got it. This 304 grifter got it from him. And the excuse that she gave was my friend could not support her in the lifestyle that she was used to. And upon that phony BS excuse, this grifter 304 was able to divorce rate my friend, who was working in the defense industry. And mind you, at the time when the defense industry was making a lot of money and he was making a lot of money, she used the excuse that he could not support her in the lifestyle that she was used to. In the years that passed since this happened, we kind of drifted apart, but I knew that this event totally changed his life. It totally messed him up, so to speak. He did get married again. He got married 2 times after that. I think he's still married, but there again, this all happened, my brothers, in the 80s, in a time when there was no internet, there was no YouTube or anything like that. There was only word of mouth of things like that happening to men. Now, I want to give you the details of my friend's divorce rate to say this, that again, that was in the mid 80s. So that's how many years ago versus now, where we MGTOW men are being told on a daily basis that if we do not lay down our lives to be fodder for a divorce rate, we are stingy men. We are men who are just terrible beings. But my brothers, again, consider what women are asking us to do, asking us to, quote unquote, jump into the fire of destruction, which is being divorced and having everything that you can own, your life, your well-being, your mental health, everything to be destroyed because we are considered as mere resources by women. We are not considered as mates, as husbands, as men who deserve the love and respect of the woman that they marry. We are considered as less than. We are considered as beings who have the only right to be slaves and the only right to be destroyed in the pits of the feminist plantation state. My brothers, again, this occurred many, many years ago. And you can only imagine that because of womanism, because of the feminist plantation state, that it's only getting worse. And so now when we have simps telling us that we need to bow down and do our duty, now that we have the feminist plantation state telling us that we need to bow down and do our duty and marry women and marry single mothers, blah, blah, blah. My brothers, again, I just want you to consider what the MGTOW philosophy offers you in terms of your freedom, in terms of your peace of mind, in terms of your sanity and your sanctity. Again, there is no reason, my brothers, for you to throw your life away on the account of a woman who does not care about you and only cares about your resources, who has targeted you, who has said that you must be locked down because you are the one that I can drain the resources from. And I'll put things this way, my brothers. You are on a journey to your freedom. Because of the adoption of the MGTOW philosophy by you, you are on a journey to your freedom. And you are on a pathway that opens your eyes to the hypocrisy of marriage, what marriage has become today. Marriage is not what you think it is, my brothers. It is more of a trap. It is nothing about building society or having the opportunity to have kids or to have a family, or you won't die alone, blah, blah, blah. Marriage in this day and age is a total sham. And it is basically something where we men have all the cards that a loser has at a table where all women who sit at that table and are looking across at you at that table with the winning cards, they know they have you if you get married. They know that it's something where they can, if they divorce you, and again, if it happens years ago, and if it's determined that it's not enough years ago, they can flash forward to present time, and they can come at you again in certain cases and get more money out of you. They know it's a resource that they can tap over and over again. That's what marriage has become. It is nothing about having a family, having that white picket fence, having the smiling faces like that stepdad BS that Disney did a few months back. It is nothing about that. It is, in reality, a trap which all men should avoid at this time. It is only, again, when the laws, when the government, all that is in a situation where it prevents men from being unfairly divorce raped on terms like my friend was divorce raped. Again, how idiotic, how illogical when a man is working for the defense industries and he's making all that type of money for a lame excuse like he could not support me in the lifestyle that she was used to when she was a grifter in the first place. My brothers, again, we are being pressured not only by simps, but by the feminist plantation state itself to get married only for the sole purpose of us, we men, being wage slaves, not only to the women that we marry, but to the feminist plantation state itself. Now, again, when you encounter that nagging feeling in your mind that I'll put it this way, when you encounter your inner simp who is in lockdown, kind of crying out to you and saying, you'll die alone if you don't get married, or you're encountering family members, or you're encountering shaming coming from some channel on YouTube, whatever. This is why it is important to you, my brothers, that you hold the line, daily consume your red pills, and daily embrace the MGTOW philosophy. Because all that shaming, telling you that you are quote unquote a homosexual, telling you that, well, you're not enough, telling you that you're not a man if you don't step up to the plate, all that, my brothers, is just pure BS. And these days, my brothers, you have to remember there is nothing wrong with putting yourself first and taking care of yourself, taking care of your well-being, and never minding the shouts from your inner simp who's on lockdown, never minding the people that are on YouTube and saying, well, this is why MGTOW men are doing this, but it's still wrong. Never minding all those things, but keeping your eyes focused on where you're going and keeping not only your eyes, but your heart and your mind, as well as your end goal, focused on the freedom that the MGTOW philosophy affords you. This is the MGTOW Infinium, and this has been an Infinium Free Talk. My MGTOW brothers, as always, stay safe, stay strong, stay on the MGTOW path, and remember, MGTOW is the liberation of men's minds. MGTOW cannot and will not be stopped.